Facebook may be in trouble, depending on whether or not you believe the following is about to happen. Well, the Federal Trade Commission has decided to sue to try to break up Facebook, saying that it has too much power. They want WhatsApp and Instagram, which are both owned by Facebook, to be broken into separate companies. In other words, they want to break up some of the monopoly power that Facebook actually has. Facebook has maintained its monopoly position by buying up companies that present competitive threats and by imposing restrictive policies that unjustifiably hinder actual or potential rivals that Facebook does not or cannot acquire. Now, that's what the lawsuit actually says. What they want is a divestiture of assets, divestiture of reconstruction and business, including but not limited to Instagram and WhatsApp, as well as any other possible relief that they may seek in the future. Now, we noticed that, like in the last 10 years or so, there has been an exponential growth in U.S. These kinds of technology companies and the amount of power they can wield in society. Essentially, Facebook has the power to decide what's true and what's not. Following the see real information about the election results little tab that appears on almost every freaking post that exists on Facebook. Now, this has been brought about by the attorney generals of 48 states and territories in the United States. They said they were filing their own civil lawsuits on Facebook, reflecting the broad and bipartisan concerns about how much power Facebook and its CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, have accumulated on the internet. In other words, this really goes across party lines, whether Democrat or Republican. Republicans are concerned that somebody might say, yeah, your unfounded accusation about the election is verboten. And Democrats are concerned that there will be too much power in the hands of a corporation because capitalism with a human face. But it shows the nonpartisan nature of this actual lawsuit. This isn't something the Democrats or the Republicans are doing. This is something that very clearly both sides are doing because they both have their concerns, and concerns that can vary wildly on the subject. However, Facebook has managed to respond to this lawsuit publicly. Years after the FTC cleared our acquisition, the government now wants a do-over with no regard for the impact that precedent would have set on the broader business community or the people who choose our products every day. Now, Facebook does have a point. They did apply to the FTC to buy WhatsApp and Instagram and were approved by the FTC to do so. They bought Instagram for $1 billion in 2012, and that was approved by the FTC by a 5-0 vote. There wasn't even a dissenting vote at the time. And at a time when Instagram wasn't even widely used, it was a smaller app. Just saying that as a matter of fact. It's not really an argument for anything. It also bought WhatsApp in 2014 for around $22 billion. Nice to have that kind of money to throw away. Essentially, capitalism going to capitalize. We already know the nature of capitalism to concentrate capital into fewer and fewer hands, creating a monopoly stage of capitalism that creates imperialism. Now, why wouldn't we think the same thing would happen here? It happens in finance, it happens in industry, so why wouldn't it happen in technology as well? Of course it would. Capitalism, that's literally what capitalism has done in every situation that it has ever faced, in every industry there has ever been, a massive concentration of capital. So naturally, we'd see the same thing. And what does that lead to? Imperialism. So, what do we see? We see Facebook reaching out into other countries, trying to take social media apps that are dominant in other countries. I mean, they're trying in China, but that's not going to work because the Chinese government isn't going to let it happen. But you do have other countries where kind of like their own app appears, like VK or something. And Facebook, if they can't compete with them and crush them, are going to try to buy them out. And if they can't buy them out, then they'll do as much as they can to hinder that app using their tactics. I mean, the same thing with Google. Google goes around buying up anything that could potentially compete with it Alphabet owns a lot of things, not just Google. I mean, they bought up YouTube and basically ruined it. So this is all part of the natural function of capital. It's just happening in the technology sector where it hasn't happened before. It's been in the process of happening, but we've already seen this in industry and finance. But we're seeing it again. We're watching it happen in real time now. Whereas maybe a lot of people weren't paying attention because the concentration of capital in finance and industry took, over 100 years to really happen. I mean, like I said, there used to be 200 auto manufacturers in France in the 1800s. Now today there's a handful? Because capital tends to concentrate. And there's a handful of major auto manufacturers in the entire world. Whereas there used to be 200 and just in France alone. So that's just another description of that. We're seeing that concentration of capital again. I mean, it's really interesting because it's happening faster than it happened in other industries. So we get to watch this in real time, and it's very interesting. The question is the U.S. government, or in this particular case, the Federal Trade Commission, going to acknowledge that Facebook has too much power? Because on the one hand, my private property, I can do whatever I want with it. Why would you ever hinder me? Free of the market, free of the people, kind of nonsense. On the other hand, they already know what monopoly does and the danger that it places on other businesses and how it inherently hinders the free market itself, which makes it a complete contradiction. And again, another contradiction of capitalism. It's almost like capitalism is made up of a series of contradictions or something, but I digress. So it's going to be very interesting to see what it is that Facebook actually does in this situation. Not Facebook, but what the Federal Trade Commission does. Which side of the free market ideology is it going to come down on? The right to just buy up however much you want and create a monopoly? Or the ability to defend a free market where competition can happen? Because you can't have both. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.